Ladies and gentlemen, it's Spoilerin time. And spoiler, I'm not in the United States of America. I am in Japan. If you watch Cordkillers, which is our show about cutting the cord and the methods and gear that you need to do that, you already know that. Today, however, we are still going to spoil you on our baseline service level agreement shows that we are enjoying: Justified Episode 7, Season 3, and Mr. Robot Episode 8 of Season 2. I'm Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood alongside of Brian. We got a guest.
Heck yeah, we got Justin Robert Young. We had to bring this in to make this truly a global incident because we got to represent all of Team Night Attack along with most of Team DTNS because we got to talk about the movie draft.
Absolutely.
It's tight. 48 hours? No, 72 hours and too close to call? Is that what's going on?
I mean, it's already Tuesday here, so it just feels tight. That's all I'm going to say. I think we should let Movie League Mike sum this up for us. He sent an email pointing out Team DTNS needed to make up $58 million in 18 days. So after gaining about $34 million in just 7, it looks bad for Night Attack. But some quick back-of-the-napkin calculations show that if every movie dropped by 50% next week, then Tom and Jenny would gain $17 million and would trail by $7 million with 4 days to go. Another 50% daily drop for that short week, and they'd gain another $4 million, leaving Night Attack with a $3 million win. Of course, not every movie will drop 50%. And here we are. Here we are, Brian. And I am Team DTNS is how far behind?
Night Attack has $958 million. Team DTNS has $952 million. And still momentum. The game ends as of receipts on Thursday, September 1st. What do you say, Justin? Can you handicap this?
No. I can't. No. Why? How could you? I mean, all right. So effectively what DDNS was making on Night Attack last week per day was about $2 million. If that holds, we're hosed. If it drops below that, then we win. Now, you would suspect that you're going to start to see decay from all the movies as they start to drop out of theaters. The question is, will it do it at a rate that affects one more than the other? Obviously, we have a benefit which has kind of buoyed us, which is The Secret Life of Pets, and it is still a specialty film because it is for the kids. But at the same time, I don't know, Brian. I don't know.
Our fates are in the hands of people who go to movies on Tuesday.
Yeah. No, high schoolers who just want a place to make out.
So I guess at this point we'll get back to you next week. Normally we'd be setting up the winter movie draft. We have to pick the movies for that. But in the meantime, of course, congratulations to Chat Realm user Danil. Dannil is the sole Chat Realmer who won with $1.6 billion. And I can't believe it. It's always just one winner. It's amazing to me.
And as close as it is for us, this is the closest movie draft. This is the closest movie draft we've ever had, right?
Yes.
It's still a definitive winner from Chat Realm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very clear. Wisdom
Fantastic.
Of crowd.
Let us start spoiling Episode 8, Season 2 of Mr. Robot. This is one of the rare Mr. Robot episodes where we just don't see Elliot. After the big revelation last week,
I didn't even realize that was the case until you just said that right now. That's amazing. I didn't even notice. I did notice that there was a lot of not Elliot in the previously on, but then he never showed up, and I was like, huh, all right.
It was all Darlene, a little bit of Angela, right?
Yeah.
But basically, this was a Darlene vehicle.
Justin, what did you think?
I'm loving it. It was great. I mean, I like Darlene as, compared to Elliot's character, which obviously I can understand where viewers felt betrayed by the bigger reveal of what had seemed like a very isolating and semi-realistic plot line for him in this season, revealed to be something different. I think Darlene heading in a very specific, almost Walter Whiteian sort of direction, descending into somebody that uses violence and death to solve loose ends.
Is breaking worse? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, is something that I think adds
Breaking
a
butt.
counterweight. Two things. I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of amazing, Brian. I didn't realize that there was no Elliot till towards the end. It's not surprising that you didn't even think about it because the episode still carries the storyline very well. The only thing that bugged me though was it hinges on the executioner coming back into the house. Why? I mean, and they acknowledge it. They say like, "Why didn't we have a lookout?" They complain about it later, like we do. So Mr. Robot's still, going in with eyes wide open. We're going to acknowledge to the audience that this is a weird thing. But still, why? Why did they not expect her to come back and have any idea that she was coming back into that house? It seems unfathomable to me.
Look, if if you're accusing them of doing things and not giving justifiable reasons for it ahead of time, then I'd like to introduce you to a little show called Mr. Robot. Like I don't even understand why her house was an obvious fit for an HQ for them to work out of.
Yeah, it's a fair point
by scaring to gaslight her out of it or whatever. That was kind of weird to begin with. I like the fact that the story is moving to a war thing. It occurs to me, we spent all of, and we've talked about this before. We spent all of the first season with it being a story of the hackers versus E-Corps. Now E-Corps were the bad guys and hackers were the good guys. Now we have a third player in the FBI, and it's a little bit more Game of Thronesy, where it's like, well, I like this person on this team. I, in general, stand for what this team's going for, but it's no longer very clearly the good guys and the bad guys, especially with the wild card of Elliot. I will say, and I apologize for everyone's going to get super mad at me, that I grow a little bit weary of the too clever by half dialogue, just doing laps saying, "Hey, all you hackers, we know what these words mean." Like okay, we get it at this point, and wedging in phrases that they probably wouldn't say just to show off that they're a savvy production.
I mean, but that's a double-edged sword, though, right? Because if they don't do that, then it's like, oh, you don't really know, and this is like, because obviously you got to take plot contrivances to make sure that the plot goes, so it's never going to be exactly what a hacker would do. So they have to overcompensate by the fact that the actions are never going to be as straight ahead by continually understanding that the methods are at the very least legit.
That's fine as long as all of that is done in service of the story, but I'm seeing more and more loose threads that don't appear to have any payoff. They didn't even explain...
What's an example of this one? Could you remember?
Oh, sure. Well, a couple episodes ago, it was the rubber ducky. I was thrilled to see it. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be a plot device. And it wasn't a plot device at all. They just said, this is a rubber ducky. That's a real thing.
Hold on. Did you notice it in the previews for next week?
No. So maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully it'll pay off in that way.
I think it's coming back. Yeah.
But then it's like, hey, we went through, we found all your dirty stuff. Did you get a little Petraeus there much? And really a Petraeus hack? And the old benchmark owning the phone trickaroo. And there's some clumsy dialogue.
I'll give you that. Like the Petraeus thing actually didn't strike me as anything, but the coffee shop scene, I was like, really? This is the hacker you're bringing into F Society? And he just logged on to a website and got pwned like that struck me as like wanting to show that hack. You're right.
Yeah, and also, I hang out with hackers and they don't say, I mean, whatever. I mean, they're not as proud of their lingo as they're being depicted on the show. That's all I'm going to say.
But in the same way that Silicon Valley, is not necessarily how engineers talk. Right.
Yeah. Right. And I know people who are in startups who hate Silicon Valley because they're like, oh, it's just such an exaggeration of how we are. And we're like, yeah, that's why people like it, because it's an exaggeration of how you are.
Yeah. It still continues to be good. I continue to be intrigued yet confused by what's her name's seduction by E-Corp. I thought the whole scene with her singing "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" was fantastic. Angela is a very engaging character. I'm waiting for something to snap that makes her the most interesting person on the show, because she's not quite there yet.
As excited as I was just to see the rubber ducky in the previews again, it was in Angela's hands because she still has it from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling that she is going to go and steal some data of her own for her own reasons using the rubber ducky.
Yeah,
and that's going to further her own plans.
Okay, that might be. I hope that's not the case, because if that's the case, then I would be the guy going, "That's not how a rubber ducky works." You have to, that be the whole purpose of her using it is that she doesn't know what the script is. But if she would use it for her own reasons, then she would need.
No, I think she's just going to go fishing, plug it into a computer, and see what she comes back with.
Okay.
I mean, especially if it's
ducking.
A very powerful computer like the one in the office that she spent a lot of time in recently with the head of eCorp.
Yes. Already Gambling Man is getting the pitchforks out in there.
Well, I mean, no, like, listen, I totally get where you're coming from, because I think that it is there to be noticed. But I also think that's a rock and a hard place situation for them, because if it were missing, if they weren't dropping all these references to let all the cool kids know that they were literate on the subject, I think they would get ripped apart and it would lose its cred as internet show, right?
And Brian, I mean, you did like the episode, right?
Oh, I loved all the episodes.
Yeah.
They're all great. They're all great.
So,
Ken from Chicago says Angela's getting tiresome. Pick a side: Fragile Egg or Ice Queen. No, I like the interplay of Fragile Egg and Ice Queen, and I love
Fabergé Ice Queen.
Yeah, I love not knowing where she's going to go. I love not knowing where she's going to land, because specifically, here's what I like the best about this season is you are dropping, and this is a show that has prided itself on dropping everything has a hint at some point, right? And so it loves to boil up the tension. I love this idea that we are kind of moving, that this show in season 3 might be a little closer to dystopian fiction than the
Would
super
love that. Would love them to continue, because we talked about this previously, where we're starting to see this kind of breakdown of the economic system, and I love the emergence of this this eCoin versus Bitcoin thing, because you see it in the background of all these shots in every store that they go to.
And
don't forget that what is it? What's the Chinese dark army?
White Rose.
White Rose. Don't forget that White Rose is doing this on purpose. She's playing F Society, right? So there's a plan that involves, yes, we want to let hackers bring stuff down because then we get more power out of it. And I think that eCoin is part of that.
Yeah.
Well, and we've already seen, it's already been set up as a world rule that there is a $50 a day cash limitation. And that is something that has already come down once and could come down again. And that we've seen Elliot from inside his, now we know, prison, already done some kind of work. We still don't know who Craig Robinson is exactly, but he's done some kind of work in terms of migrating and getting hot and cold Bitcoin wallets functioning again, right? Yeah. So the idea that now maybe they're setting up, in my mind, this is where it might lead, is we're setting up a world where F Society might not only just be the rabble-rousers that blow up the Death Star, but might now have a way to corrupt or control currency. There might be setting up a world where F Society or people within it, or people who want to be opportunistic with their attack, could become the richest people on the planet overnight.
Yeah, and that fits in with Darlene constantly saying, we aren't winning, we're losing this war. Because even though the hack worked and they brought down the system, she's seeing the pieces in place that are keeping them from taking over. And we also saw this week that Darlene is willing to go to any extent to get what she wants, and lie about it to her own closest confidants. She just wanted revenge on the executioner. Maybe that's reason enough why they took her house. Somebody pointed that out in the chat room earlier. So, this is all going to come to a big dystopian head if it goes the way that I hope it does.
That's rad. Like, of all the shows that have kind of begun as a certain kind of show and then evolved into a different kind of show, that would be very exciting for me. If seasons 3 and 4 of Mr. Robot were taking place amongst like the warlords of post 9/5 New York would be awesome.
I mean, that's the same trick that Game of Thrones pulled, right? Started off as very much an intrigue, the Borgias, and then became Lord of the Rings. We could see the same thing happen here.
Yeah, I mean, although with Game of Thrones, it was more just like, I think Game of Thrones wanted to do the current season's level production values. They just didn't have the money, right? The difference between Game of Thrones then and now is that now they can show, the ultimate Astro Van airbrush painting of 3 dragons breathing fire on one, warship or something. Now, back then they had to like, oh crap, we're out of money for this episode and we have a whole battle. I don't know. Tyrion gets knocked out and he wakes up and we tell him who won. Ha!
Shoot, there was one more thing I was going to mention about Mr. Robot, and it's gone. But good show. Really liking that Mr.
We
Robot.
approve.
Oh,
Continue
I know.
making them.
I should be angrier that Elliot wasn't in this after they end with a big reveal last week, and I'm dying for answers. They not only hold me over for another week before they tell me any of those answers, but they gave me an episode that I care a lot about.
Yeah, well, and they had to. It was a do or die episode in that regard if we're going to care about any of the characters who aren't Elliot.
All right, let's finish up by spoiling episode 7, season 3 of Justified, with the war of the 3 families continuing between Raylan and the Detroit Mafia, and now a little bit of internal struggle as we see the son of the guy who heads the Detroit Mafia, who has a beef with Quarles, coming into the picture.
Yeah, I thought it was fun that everyone assumes Raylan's crooked, and he keeps feeling like, what the hell's going on? I do enjoy the continuing interplay with Boyd Crowder about, are they friends? What's going on? But I don't know. I'm ready to. I'm glad. I'm glad to see a new player. I'm glad to see some more intrigue. I like this idea that after Raylan pulls aside the bald son and says, he's clearly setting something up at this point, and we're seeing a trap being laid for Quarles, which I enjoyed that a lot. I'm kind of bored of Raylan's dad, now that they introduced this plot of he's off his meds and calling for his long dead wife. Like, okay, I mean, maybe
I guess that must be setting something up for down the road, because it didn't really seem to play much of a part in this.
Yeah.
Other than getting us another window into Limehouse, which I actually love Limehouse, so that might be reason enough, I guess.
Right.
Limehouse is a great addition to this season. I've found the big bad of this season, the super oily, deep secreted bad guy. I thought he was great. But I think you guys are dead on that. The show kind of at this point has run out of interesting things to do with Raylan's dad, that either he's going to be at Raylan's throat or working against him or working with him, but they've kind of run the gamut of that already. So I can understand your guys' frustration with where they did Raylan's dad.
There was one scene that was absolutely great, was when they cut to Winona's husband up there selling his secret courses to real estate riches, and that whole scene just looked fantastic. It was,
and Quarles in the front row playing the shill, like, well, I've got a question, like, and then yeah.
Well, and plus also, like, I'm pretty sure I've been in that hotel at that presentation in that room. They exactly nailed it.
Well, it was the perfect, like, there are 10 people in a room meant for 40.
Yeah.
And like you see 2 are walking out right at the begining. Like,
well, and I loved how they communicated that he's not good at it.
Yeah.
He's getting flustered and stumbling and everything.
No, it was good. And it sets up an interesting reason to pull him back in, because they need to play him off against Raylan somehow.
Oh, yeah. How about that? How about that moment when Boyd says, like, well, apparently I need a pawn in this game, and goes and gets the guy who's now a greeter at Walmart and says, people only want money or power. I can offer, I'm short on the one, but I can offer you the other. How'd you like to run for sheriff? I'm like, wow, what a cool idea for him to be a puppet master in there.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great. And this is a small thing from that conversation, but one of the things I love about Justified's dialogue is those little pieces they'll throw in where, like, Boyd says, I don't think I could say hi to that many people, like, as a way to emphasize, like, you're not enjoying this, right? Come on, get over here on my side.
Continues to be good and getting better.
Oh, by the way, don't forget Raylan is dirty. He's not dirty for any of the reasons people think he's dirty. And so therefore he feels right, justified in saying, I am not dirty. But he did help Winona take the money. And there are some of those bills still out there tripping warnings.
Yeah, but at that point, they know who did it and who took it. Like, I feel like that dollar bill story is over. I feel like that's wrapped up with a bow.
It might be. I won't be shocked if it's over. But they keep bringing it back up. And it just seems too perfect for someone to be accusing Raylan of being dirty for all the wrong reasons, and then suddenly discovering that and being able to pin it.
Hold on. You know what? Maybe there's a bit of a lens that maybe that was a deliberate thing that Boyd said. There's only two things men care about: money and power. I don't have the one, but I get the other. And everybody assumes Raylan's dirty for money, but he's clearly dirty for power. He's clearly can't handle watching the justice system let bad guys slip through his fingers. And he just kills people. He beats them up. He violates all the rules. So that's interesting.
I have to say, though, that this is the first time since we started watching Justified where I feel like the season might be a little too long. I like the story, but at episode 7, I'm kind of wishing we were at episode 11. Like, it's moving a little slower for me.
I mean, to its kind of pulp crime roots and inspiration, this show is really only as good as like the speed at which it spins its plates. And sometimes it is better at it than others, right? Like, you just really have to be invested in the characters and the actions and the story that is happening right in front of you. Because at the end of the day, it's not a tremendously deep show beyond its like whatever premise of Southern destitution that you want to read into it from the very beginning. It's really just about, I don't know, rad, sweet-talking Southern people doing rad, sweet-talking Southern people kind of stuff, which is why I love it.
Yeah. It's plain spoken. I like that. All right. That is it for this episode of Spoilerin Time. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Programming note for you to realize, we should have mentioned this on Cordkillers too. Labor Day, next Monday, Dragon Con going on. I'm still out here in Japan, so there will not be a Cordkillers next week, but we will return the week after. And then we'll spoil you again.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.